The diner had always been her safe spot, quiet, warm, and easy to navigate with her cane. But on that cold morning, as the door chimed behind her and she limped toward her usual booth, everything changed in a heartbeat. 3 bikers in leather vests blocked her path, their eyes narrowing the moment they spotted the trident tattoo across her upper chest, a mark she'd earned through blood, loss, and sacrifice. She tried to step around them, but one grabbed her arm, yanking her coffee from her hand, sending it crashing to the floor as his friends laughed. They didn't know who she was. They didn't know the hell she'd survived. And they definitely didn't know who was already on the way. Before the story continues, if you believe in kindness, respect, and second chances, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel. Your support truly helps us reach more hearts. Her name was Riley Stone, a 29-year-old disabled veteran who had survived a blast during her final deployment. The explosion had taken half the strength in her right leg and scattered shrapnel across her ribs, leaving her with a permanent limp and the kind of pain that echoed even on calm days. But it had never taken her spirit. What weighed on her more heavily than the injuries was the transition back into everyday life, where people stared at her cane, not her courage, and where scars invited questions she had no strength left to answer. That morning she had only wanted a cup of coffee to quiet the memories racing through her head. Instead, the biker gang, men who carried ego like a weapon, decided she was an easy target. They pushed her into a booth, mocking her disability, tugging at her jacket, and demanding to know what her tattoo meant. She tried to stay calm. She tried to tell them she didn't want trouble. But when one grabbed her collar and exposed the ink etched across her chest, the trident symbol she had earned during joint operations, they laughed as if her service meant nothing. Their fingers dug into her shoulder, their eyes full of cruelty. Her cane clattered to the floor, and as she braced for whatever came next, Riley quietly tapped the emergency beacon hidden in her bracelet, a backup device her team had insisted she keep, just in case. She didn't know if anyone would come. She hadn't seen most of them in months. Life had scattered them across states, duties, families, and new missions. But the signal reached them, and when a signal like hers went off, there was no hesitation, there was only action. 15 minutes later, the diner's quiet morning shifted. The bell over the door jingled softly, but the air changed completely. 6 figures stepped inside, moving with calm precision, dressed in dark tactical clothing rather than uniforms, but carrying a presence unmistakable to anyone who'd ever served. They weren't there to start chaos, they were there to end it. At the front was their team leader, a man with sharp eyes who spotted Riley instantly, his jaw tightening at the sight of her being held down. The bikers glanced their way, momentarily confused, unaware that the room's entire atmosphere had shifted. These weren't random men. These were her brothers, Navy SEALs she had served alongside, men who had carried her through sandstorms, firefights, and the darkest moments of their lives. They didn't shout. They didn't posture. They simply moved. One biker reached for Riley again, and that single motion triggered a silent storm. In seconds, the SEALs closed in with controlled restraint, removing the biker's hands from her shoulders, positioning themselves between her and the danger. They didn't throw punches unless they had to. They were trained to neutralize, not escalate. The leader picked up Riley's cane, placed it gently in her hand, and positioned himself at her side like a wall of quiet reassurance. The diner fell silent except for the heavy breathing of men who suddenly realized the imbalance of power. The SEALs didn't brag or threaten. They didn't need to. Their calm, disciplined presence alone was enough to drain the color from the bikers' faces. One by one, the gang backed away, their arrogance collapsing as they stumbled toward the exit, defeated not by violence but by the unshakable force of loyalty and discipline standing before them. When the danger finally cleared, Riley felt her knees tremble, not from fear, but from the overwhelming weight of being protected, seen, and valued again. The leader steadied her, guiding her carefully to a booth. The others checked her for injuries, their voices low, respectful, carrying the warmth of old friendships forged in fire. The diner staff watched in awe. realizing the woman they'd seen limping in every morning was not just a veteran. She was family to warriors who would cross states for her without hesitation. Tears burned behind Riley's eyes, not from pain but from the memory of years spent thinking she had been forgotten. Yet here they were, not 20 minutes after her signal, not 20 minutes after 3 strangers tried to break her spirit. They came not out of obligation but out of loyalty, the kind that doesn't fade with time or distance. For the first time in a long while, Riley felt like she wasn't fighting alone. She realized that even though life had changed her body, it had never changed her worth. And the men standing around her reminded her of something she had forgotten. She was still part of a team, still capable, still respected, still loved. As they helped her outside, the world felt a little softer. The pain in her leg didn't disappear, but the weight she'd been carrying in her heart finally lifted. Sometimes, all a person needs is to be reminded that they matter. Riley walked out of that diner leaning on her cane, but standing taller than she had in months. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe. Your support helps us continue telling meaningful stories that inspire and uplift.